Hey everyone, it's Andy here. And today's video, I'll be talking about a very common status message folks are seeing on IRS to go and WMR. It's basically related to the IRS telling you that their processing of your return has been delayed beyond the normal 21-day time frame. So essentially just means that you're probably going to see a refund delay. I'll cover why in this video, what that means, and what may happen next. And as always, if you like what you see here, please hit the like button and subscribe to keep getting the latest videos. I also just wanted to give a quick plug for my website, savingtoinvest.com. So I've actually talked about this very topic today. You'll see a lot of the latest articles which cover a lot of recent tax season topics. I know these are stuff people are finding issues with, so have a look at this here. And specifically for the topic here, you can go to savingtoinvest.com and see a pretty detailed topic. And you can see I've already got 174 comments as of writing this video. It seems to be blowing up, so clearly lots of people are having this issue. Again, savingtoinvest.com. I'll put a description in the video below as well. So what are the most common reasons for refund delays? So just to be clear, that message that pops up at the beginning is due to the fact that the IRS is processing, but the IRS have said this before themselves. Your return can be delayed for many reasons. The most common are missing, incomplete, or incorrect information. And this is really important because if the IRS has incorrect or incomplete information, then it potentially will try and resolve internally, but then it has to go to the error handling department, which then means it'll be delayed because everyone knows the IRS is having a lot of staffing shortages right now. So using electronic filing is probably the best way to minimize this reason for refund delays. But this is what's causing a lot of people, and it's not information just for you, it's for your dependents or even for others that claim you. So you just need to be aware of this. This is sort of a top reason every year that the IRS has issues. This year specifically, or in the recent tax season, what's been having a lot of issues is people have been submitting incorrect amounts for the advanced refundable credits, which include the advanced child credits and potentially the recovery rebate credit, which is a stimulus check for those that didn't get it. So if you put the incorrect amount or you claimed it twice because you already got it last year, you don't have to necessarily claim, for example, stimulus checks again in this year's tax returns. It gets thrown off by the IRS. Now, the IRS can normally fix a lot of these automatically, but it will have to require some additional or special handling, which again will cause a refund delay. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons this tax season that your return is going to take longer than 21 days is because if you went in and submitted these incorrectly, part of it, and you did get letters from the IRS last year. There were some gaps in December for certain joint married couples that the letter from the IRS didn't match what they had in their systems. And so when you submitted your tax return, it caused issues. Now, this is, I've done a separate whole video on these two credits and the issues, but these seem to be causing a lot of the issues this year, and I'll touch on this a bit later on as well. And sort of the third biggest category for refund delays is really due to identity and security checks, basically fraud. So, tax filers who submit their return, it could be all fine, no issues, but what happens is either in the past or because of some new algorithms, your return gets flagged. Maybe someone claimed your dependence, someone claimed you had an identity breach, for whatever the reason, but your return gets held up by the IRS, and they will have to send you letters to, confirm your identity, confirm your information. And just because this is so backlogged and short-staffed this tax season, that's taking a long time. The last minor one is you could be under an audit. This could be from previous years. It could be your business. It could be people that are claiming you are under audit. So this can also cause issues when falls into additional checks that the IRS has to do. So a lot of people who get the message saying that their tax return is held up or is going to take longer than the normal time to be processed, they're wondering what can they do. It's really frustrating, it's really stressful, and just from the hundreds of comments I've seen across my site, Facebook, Reddit, all those different forums, it clearly is a very frustrating thing for people because people are, this is probably one of the biggest payments they'll get in this year. A lot of folks are, booking holidays, paying off debt, just paying bills. And so not getting a refund is can be very frustrating. But if you have received an IRS acknowledgement, which will essentially be return received status in WMR or IRS to go, that's the online refund status checking tool. You don't need to take any further action when you see this message. You really can't do much. The IRS is basically telling you that they're processing, wait till they finish that, and then they'll send you next steps, which I'll talk about what could happen next. But while it may be frustrating, and it's just sometimes you'll see, an NA on your transcript, or you'll see your status bars disappear. If you know the return IRS's return has received just your tax return, you can't really do much there. The thing I'll say is check, WMR, IRS to go, or your IRS account transcript, which is free. And I'll post a video here and a description in the section below how you can do this. But you can check that daily for details and updates. It only updates once a day, so no point checking more than that. But those will be the best place to find out what's happening with your return and getting updates. But you really, you can call the IRS, and I'll touch on that as well a bit later. But really, looking online is probably the best option for you because an IRS agent is not going to be able to help you. Now, when things do progress, you will get an IRS notice or letter explaining what's happened. They could just be a letter saying, hey, you're under review, something that looks like this. A CPO5 is pretty common and will tell you that, hey, we're holding your return until we finish. Again, this you currently can't do much, but it does confirm that your IRS is looking at something in your return. They're looking for different aspects, normally around your income or something you didn't report that was correct, but at least you know what they're doing. They'll give you a contact number, and after 30 days is what they tell you. You can contact them if you don't hear back from them. But this is sort of the first CPO5 notice that you may see from the IRS. The main thing is when you get these notices, respond promptly to any requests. It's nothing to reason to freak out. These letters look very legal and formal, but really just IRS telling you they're doing something or requesting information. And the biggest thing you can do is just respond to these. If you lose your letter, check your IRS account. There'll be a copy of that over there as well of what's been sent to you. So you can do that online as well. But the key thing I can tell you is respond promptly so that the amount of refund delays are reduced. So the other big question people will ask is, well, how long will I have to wait? So when you see this message, which is, I think, like I said, the catch-all common message that the IRS is still processing your return and the refund will likely be late, is how long do I have to wait? So officially, it'll say more than the standard 21 days. Now, again, these are all guidelines. Some people do see it quicker, some people see it longer. It just depends on the type of issue you have, and it's unique to a lot of taxpayers based on what they've filed, their history with the IRS, or how big the discrepancy is. But generally, I'm seeing this tax season, it's definitely more than 21 days since your return is accepted by the IRS. It can also take about 30 days to get the IRS notice I showed you before, along what's the issue, what they're doing, if they're requesting more information. So, if you don't get something within a week or week two and you keep seeing this message, it's because the IRS is processing and they'll send you a message within sort of 30 days to get next steps or at least tell you what they're doing. Now, this is where it gets a little bit bad. Just again, staffing backlogs, a lot of the paper returns, amended returns from 2020 are still being processed. And I've talked about that in earlier videos. IRS is saying that it can take 90 to 120 days. So that's 3 to 4 months for returns that require special manual handling. This essentially means it has to go to an examiner or a manual review being done by someone at the IRS. And a lot of this is around corrections to those refundable credits I talked about. So if you had issues with your child tax credit or you claimed stimulus checks again, or you didn't submit it properly, you could be seeing a long delay, 3 to 4 months, if it requires a lot of back and forth to prove this. If your dependents are not right, someone else claimed them, there's injured spouse claims. This is probably the more extreme case. If you filed an amended return, it could even take longer as well. What I'm hearing is that it is taking generally 4 to 6 weeks for a lot of people who did claim those two credits. And again, that's more anecdotal from the comments I'm seeing. It's not the 90 to 120 days, but I also want to be realistic that 4 weeks is still, almost 28 days, and 6 weeks is nearly 42 days. So it is taking, a long time to sometimes hear back from the IRS on next steps or getting at least your refund paid out as well. And the other one, which is going to take you a long time, and this is, I think, well known from last couple of tax seasons, is if you're under a fraud alert, your return is flagged that this is a fraudulent return. It could be because someone's stolen your identity, or someone else is under an audit or fraud that you get impacted by, or 2020 amended returns with errors. Those are taking literally months. There are some folks waiting for their 2020 return even now. So that's probably the more extreme cases. But generally, I'd say 4 to 6 weeks is very good, how long your refund payment could be delayed, assuming there's no other issues found after that initial level of processing. So the other big challenge this tax season for filers who want to know what's happening with their tax return or when the refund will be paid because they see that error message on WMR is getting a live agent. Unfortunately, due to staffing shortages, folks from the Taxpayer Advocate Service, Bloomberg, even the Washington Post have said that the IRS agents are really only answering a fewer than 1 in 10 phone calls on average. I mean, that's just because of the sheer volume. There's 200 million plus calls. There's about 15,000 agents. So, if you average it out, they can only basically answer 1 in 10 calls, which is why it's so hard to get to an agent. Now, there's tips and tricks, and I've done videos on this, and I'll post it here where you call in the morning or you call on a Tuesday or on a Thursday. Unfortunately, if there's only 1 in 10 calls being answered, it's going to be very hard for you to get through. And what's more is that an agent is not going to be helpful to help you much if it's still in processing status, because there's different groups, different systems that actually do the tax refund processing. The agent's really just to see what probably you see as well online. So always check online first. The agent can possibly give you some insight into why it's delayed, maybe because it's fraud, maybe it's a credit, but you can even see that in your transcript if you really look for it. But the agent's not really going to help you like, hey, when will you be paid, or how is it going to be resolved? That's something they cannot do until the IRS actually finishes processing and sends you follow-up communication letters, because at that point then there'll be more information specific to your situation, and that's when an agent can help you. And that's why the IRS says wait 21 days or wait 30 days if it's a notice before you contact an agent. Until then, online is still your best option. Question now you may ask is what happens next? So, generally once the IRS finishes processing your return, there'll be probably 4 or 5 things that can really happen. Obviously, there's many different possibilities based on the communication if you don't provide information back to the IRS. But generally speaking, assuming that your issue was one of the common ones, this is what can happen next, right? And again, look at your transcript. This is all based on what comes up in your transcript. So you'll either have your return was delayed due to an offset. This is code 898 or tax topic 203, I believe. That'll basically say that, hey, your refund has been reduced. You'll still be paid because your refund is normally paid. There's no issues. It can also be done partially as well. But this is basically said you've been offset due to some federal or state debt that gets passed to the IRS that's delinquent, child support payments, overpaid unemployment. There is a freeze on student debt, so that's not being offset this year. But you'll get it's called an 898 code, which is tax topic 203, which is really an offset that'll happen, right? You could definitely then have an adjustment. So this is specifically for your recovery rebate credits, the child tax credit or the stimulus check. So you'll see here you have your credit payments, which is the 766 and the 768 codes, which are negative amounts, which means you're getting paid that. But then after the IRS review, which will be a code 570, you have an adjustment made if you incorrectly claim the credits, dependents, the information, or you provided incorrect reconciliation amounts. So you'll see a tax code 570. The other one, which you don't ideally want, is a 420, which means it's gone for further review, an IRS audit. Now, there's different levels of audit, so it doesn't mean a full-blown audit, but it could mean a longer delay just because the IRS needs more information from you or to have a conversation about what you submitted. And then the last one, which is what you want to see, is that after the IRS does its actions, you'll get an 846 code on your transcript, which will basically be equivalent to the refund sent status on WMR or IRS to go. And you want to see an 846 with a date for 2022 because it's issued every year, assuming you get a refund. So once 846, that's pretty much when you're done. Now you could have refunds issued multiple times in a tax season because they could have a partial release and then have a full release if a certain amount is under review or under audit. But generally 846 code is what you'll see next, and that's what you want. So these are sort of the things that can happen after that processing is done. The question is it going to take 4 weeks or 6 weeks or potentially 120 days for this to get done? And that's sort of hard, and it does depend on individual taxpayers. So, hopefully this gives you some insight, this video. And, if you liked what you see here, please hit the like button and keep subscribing. Thanks all.